Good morning and welcome to my morning rant. Morning, I want to talk to you guys about the incident that we're looking at our TV America right now, about this painful, traumatic thing that is keep happening to the United States of America's citizens, and our politicians not doing anything to stop this madness that is happening in our society, and how our current system is set up in the United States of America. They will continue do nothing. All that they have been offering us the last 20, 30 years is thoughts and prayers. And we know what that is all about. And as they continue to just insult us with how they behave and how they think about us, absolutely, I can't even think about it. So far this year in 2022, we've had somewhere around, I believe it's 27, 28 shootings that has taken place in our society. And that's school shootings. We know that a few weeks ago we had a serious incident within a mall where a gunman walked in and shooting people. We know that you're not safe within the school as well, because and the churches know that they're constantly going into the church house of worship, guys, and shoot people. And these men and women that are in Senate basically are corrupt people, because we know they're all corrupt, but the level of corruptness within the Senate, especially we have in our society, we have a two-party system. And we know that the Democrats has been after gun control and all those things for many years, but we know that the Republican Party is that party that is just stonewalling this process by which we can stop this madness. And simply because there's no profit in it. There was profit in stopping this, they would stop it. And because there's profit in keeping the status quo, that is why we will continue to see children slaughtered day in and day out. And in the American society, it's a shame that is the way that it is. I remember Columbine, and I know most people believe that Columbine was one of the first things, but this thing goes way back before that, and I'm going to mention some of those years when it started. Since Columbine, we've had somewhere, I think it's 240, 250 shootings, mass shootings, and still counting. So we know that these men and women that are our politicians that we have elected, we know that there must be some degree of corruption that is deep within these people. And let me explain why I say that. The data shows that 90% of gun owners want to have background checks. Now, this is 90% of gun owners, United States of America, want to have some kind of background check. They want to have all these mental health programs and so forth. And yet, there's a small percentage of men and women within Congress of the United States of America is refusing to give what the people of the United States want. And so this is where I've been saying to people that United States of America has never been a democracy. It could not be a democracy when you have the Electoral College. Why? Because we've seen so many times where people have won the popular vote. Recently, we saw that with Hillary Clinton getting the popular vote, and then we see the Electoral College giving it to Trump. So America is not a democracy, and it is high time we begin to face the fact that America is not democracy. It's controlled by a few. And we see this just laid out within this particular situation, gun control. A small percentage of men and women that are receiving money from the lobbyists are holding up the change that is necessary to save our children. There's this movie out there that I seen a long time ago, and I know that it's an Eddie Murphy movie, Distinguished Gentleman, and they had used comedy to deal with our political system. But that movie was very profound. I remember a scene when the senator comes up to Eddie Murphy's character and say to him, "Hey, which side are you on with this particular issue?" And his character just stood there for a little while, just froze. And just said, if you're for, we got money for that. We have, all these different things for that, lobbyists for that. If you're against it, we have lobbyists for that too. And having lobbyists represented money. We had money for that. And so the Eddie Murphy character asked him, so how do we get anything done? And his response was, we don't. And so that is the American system, the two-party system. And that is the fruit of what we have given birth to. These men have no courage to do anything that is good for their people that voted them into office. And they are supposed to be representing their constituents. They are liars, because if 90% of their people want background check, why haven't we got it? It's simply because they're crooked. They're evil men. The Bible tells us, Jesus said, a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. I mean, he said it cannot. So these men and women are bad trees. And we have to really face it, identify who they are and what they're doing. The Bible tells us that it's going to get even worse, because these men will never do anything to change the law. As far as climate change and all of these things, we fail at that too, because the Bible tells us that God is going to have to create a new heaven and a new earth. That if he's going to create a new heaven and a new earth, that means the old one is no good. That's how of a steward mankind has been. But the Bible tells us who they are. It says these men, it says in the scriptures that the heart of man is desperately wicked above all things. And so that is not my testimony. That is the testimony that God made about them. So let's take a look and see when this thing started in the United States. The 1700, we had one shooting where 9 kids, 1 adult died. 1800s, we have 12 kids. These are in the school system. 1900s to the 1930s, 16 shootings that we had in that time. In the 1940s, we had 11. 1950s, 17. 1960s, 11. 1970s, we had about 5 to 8, they said. The 80s, my Lord, the 80s, 13, and this is when all of the madness began within the United States of America. And we're seeing that this is such a prevalent thing, and these men, they can come and tell you and I that thoughts and prayers, absolutely madness. In March 2, 1987, Missouri, it talks about an honor student came in and killed 12 of his classmates. I mean, just totally destroyed these people. And these guys are coming. One of the other things, they're coming with guns and semi-automatic and all of these things. We know December 19th, 1988, December 16th, in Virginia, there's a guy, a 15-year-old, came in and started opening fires with a semi-automatic and destroyed and killed a whole ton of people in his school. It is absolutely crazy. These men, all they can tell us is about thoughts and prayers. What another thing that they have been saying, and see how they talk. They talk to us as if we're ignorant. It takes a good guy with a gun to take care of a bad guy with a gun. While we're watching good guys in the school and in the mall getting gunned down by these semi-automatic, by bad guys, and yet they're telling us that it takes a good guy with a gun to take care of a bad guy with a gun. How sick are these people? And the Bible tells us that these men are corrupt, and they will stay corrupt. In the 80s, I know it says, I was reading, at least 71 people, 65 students and 6 school employees killed with guns at school. 2,001 were severely wounded by gunfire. 242 individuals were held hostage at a gunpoint. I mean, in the 90s, oh my God, 1992, 1993, 44 homicides. 255 deaths resulting from school shooting in the United States. 1993, 42 homicide, 51 and from school shooting. 1994, 17 homicide, 20 again from school, and it goes on and on and on. And what do they say? Thoughts and prayers. And a good guy with a gun takes care of a bad guy with a gun. And so, as I mentioned to you, in the 2000s, it went wild. We know that, as I mentioned, Columbine, I think it's about 20 years or so. It was in April 20th or something like that, if my memory serves me right. So here, it's 20 years ago, and now we're having a total of 200 and something mass shootings within the school system. And they're sending us thoughts and prayers. And so these guys are corrupt to the core. They will never do anything because it's not beneficial for them financially. They're getting millions. Look at those senators that are stopping this thing from going through. They're getting millions of dollars from the gun suppliers and the NRA and all of these systems that are designed to destroy us. And these are the men and women that we have voted in to take care of us, to help us out. Last 10 years, 180 something shootings, 300 and something victims. These are our children. These are the men and women that are claiming to be, they've hijacked Christianity. And the church right now is absolutely the Western civilization Christianity. It is so sick and anemic, powerless, as the Bible tells us that these signs will follow them that believe, and it talks about signs, laying hands on the sick, casting out demons. Have you ever seen any of that within these white evangelical churches? There is none. And so because they have none of those, that's not the place to be. But those folks are sick, and I'll tell you why. Here you have, they have fought for years. For years, they've changed judges. They've done all kinds of stuff within the judicial system so that they can tell a woman she can't have a child when because of a pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy, or whatever. Well, a lot of those women that are getting pregnant and so forth are from those same religious people that are calling themselves Christians, and that's how a lot of there's a percentage of those women that are having abortions, Christian women from white churches. So these guys have spent so many years to fight these things, yet they're protecting the life of the unborn. They're championing life of the unborn until that child is. They don't care if that child is white. Sandy Hook was white. They don't care if that child is Mexican, Spanish. The ones that just happened was in the Spanish neighborhood. They don't care if that child is black. But once that child is born, they do not care. The Republican Party is up today trying to stop all the social safety net to protect families and that are in hardship. And yet these people will say to them that they are freeloaders when they are the biggest freeloaders on the planet, because they're getting a lot of free health care. They're getting free information about the stock market. These people are the worst of the worst, along with a lot of the corporations, because they are getting subsidies from the government. And yet the people are so ignorant that they allow these people to use them, get them emotionally involved in things, and destroy their life. The American system is done. These people are evil. These men and women are evil. They do not care about children. We see it every time there is a shooting. If these men cared about the children, they would do something. If the church cared about the children, they would come to those politicians that they're supporting and tell them all life is precious before God. Not the ones that are inside the womb. The ones that are outside is just as valuable as the ones that are inside the womb of the mother that you're trying to protect. You guys are hypocrites. The Bible calls you out. Jesus said those people in the church Look at what Jesus said about those people who are in the church. He called them vipers. He calls them snakes. He calls them evil. These people are bad trees. They try to hijack Christianity. They can have it because God is not interested in Christians, interested in the body of Christ, sons of God, disciples. It's different language when Jesus spoke to his disciples than when he spoke to the church. He spoke to them differently. He loved them. He talked to them about all kinds of stuff. He spoke with the church, and we see the church today. He calls them all kinds of names. That place that is called the church today in America is corrupt, absolutely corrupt to core. They did nothing when administration, whether it's a Democratic administration or a Republican administration that did those evil things to our Mexican brothers and sisters, they did nothing. Church was not even there. It was absent, not a single word. Why? Because they are evil. These people need to stop. But I can't tell you this. Jesus said he came into our timeline and he saw the decisions that we made as a collective. And he said, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in that time. And so we're looking at the degradation of mankind as it gets worse and worse. Because the Bible did say, Jesus said, of all the times that have happened on this planet, and I've said this before in a podcast, on this planet we dealt with Nephilims. These guys were monsters. They ate people, did all kinds of crazy mixture of flesh and all this type of stuff. They created all kinds of monsters. And yet Jesus said, the time that is coming, the world has never seen this before. So we know that some stuff is coming. He tells us that in the last days, that there would be wars and rumors of wars, nation against nation. When you look at word, it says tribe against tribe, people against people, race against race. Take a look at the world today and see that Jesus Christ's prophecy is alive and well. Those men and women that are in the Senate in the United States of America, the majority is a small minority of them that are evil to the core because they do not want to do anything to save our children. Absolutely atrocious. The Bible says that we walk by faith, not by sight. And so it's with a broken heart that I had to do this particular podcast. But I believe it needed to be said. These men will never, ever change their mind. They will never do good because it is not in them. They are bad trees.